we have enough things we need to visit about as well. So Carl and Lee are still taking payments for tickets. So we'll do the best we can to streamline this meeting. So welcome to the September 2024 meeting of the Milwaukee Area Woodturners. My name is Tony Rosendahl, and I'm the president of this railroad for a few more months. Woohoo! Yeah, exactly. So George is our membership chairman and treasurer, and he's going to talk just a little bit.
Okay, we have $10,151 and some cents.
Let's go to Vegas.
We have 114 members.
Oh,
And
no,
I
what
want
they
to let
do.
you members know that in November, we're gonna start re-upping for next year. So it's still $35.
Yeah.
And if you want a family plan, it's $50. Guests tonight,
I should really.
we have 6. Jim Knapp, Jim and Bernie Knapp, hiding over there. Jim Gilby. Right there. Jim Genecki was a member a year ago, and he's gonna come back in. And Brian Fulton. Gentlemen, see what it's like and sign up in November.
All right. Got a camera on this. Kevin, I'm gonna put you on right now, so, all right, because you got your thing to pass around, right? Better stand up
Up
here.
by but the microphone, yeah.
I'm gonna pass around this clipboard. It's a 2025 Milwaukee Area Woodturners Program sign-up sheet. So I've got multiple places where you could sign up to present a program next year. A couple of them are the panel idea that we talked about last month. So I've got spaces where you can put your name in. We had suggested perhaps a sanding panel, so 4 people could share that topic. So if you've got some expertise you'd like to share with the club, you can sign up for that one. Selling your work is another panel. Another idea that we had was goal coring, which could be, I think, 1 or 2 presenters. So it could be, I think 1 presenter could take the full program. But if there were 2 and you each had 2 different systems, that might be worth doing as well. So there's 2 spots to sign up for that. There's the round table, which was suggested last month. So there's like 5 spots there. That is, we have 4 or 5 stations around, and you could demo the topic of your choice, and people can wander around and go to the event they're interested in. And then finally, I've got spaces for any wood turning related topic that you're willing to present on. So put your topic and put your name. I'll pass this around, and I hope to collect it and have it full at the end of the program.
So we just all write full on it?
So as you can see, we're beginning to look forward to 2025. When you're on the board and in an officer of the club, we're always thinking 3 or 4 months ahead of time. So we'll be putting together a schedule here before too long and actually have dates for next year. We have, I guess I'm a little remiss here. I don't know exactly who's due to cycle off of the board. But there's always room for another board member or 2, and especially if you want to be an officer. So we have 4 officers. We have room for 4 officers on the board. That's president, vice president, secretary, and treasurer. And right now, George is treasurer in addition to being membership chairman. And those 2 things kind of go hand in hand. Kevin is acting as secretary. We haven't had a vice president for a number of years, and I'm president. I've told the board that I'm not going to be president on into 2025. If that sounds like something you'd like to step into, please talk to us. Or if any of those other positions sound like something that you'd be willing to maybe move into over a period of time, a period of years, we'd like to hear from you. Or just serving on the board. The board helps me keep my thoughts straight, and I come up with crazy ideas periodically, and they always put my feet back on the ground and get me to thinking more straight. Okay, the next 2 months of demos, next month in October. Mark Trenier is going to demonstrate Christmas ornaments. And we're looking forward to that. And in November.
There will be one Halloween ornament and 2 Christmas.
Okay, all right. And I heard a rumor that there's gonna be a take-home gift for everyone in attendance. Is that premature to announce that, or?
No, I put that online right now. I've got, I think 60 done.
All right,
Look, see, if you haven't turned for about a year and you're just cleaning out your shop and you find all these little pieces of wood and you get a new lathe and my wife's dead, get in the shop. And
No. So she means she wants you out of the house. In other words.
so, this probably would have been better to talk about a minute ago when I was talking about the board, and we also rely heavily here on volunteers. And I want to thank Dave Lane publicly for having headed up the audiovisual team for the last several months. Dave is trying to segue out of that position, and Greg Whimsy has agreed to step in. So Greg, why don't you stand up so people know who we're talking about? And then, if you would be so kind as to join me in thanking Dave
Don't
Lane
forget about
and-
Tom.
and I
Tom's
also
over
wanted to
there.
Thank Tom Yitzhak, who can always be seen sitting behind the camera. But Dave, thank you for being faithful and doing what you've done for the last several months, years.
Yeah,
And
so, yeah.
so best of wishes for you as you move forward. I don't know if you're done tonight or. how
No,
that
I'll
goes.
be here till the end of the year.
Till the end of the year. Great. Super.
I'll still be a member. I just won't.
Right. Okay. Then in November, our demo will be a roundtable on finishing. And speaking of Christmas ornaments, I'll be sending out an email about a internet Christmas ornament challenge that is organized by a fellow by the name of Alan Stratton. And would encourage you to consider this if you like making Christmas ornaments. So, watch for that email. Empty bowls. The event is October 13. Completed bowls can be brought in up to the October meeting. They're still looking for bowls, so even though you may hear some numbers here tonight about bowls that are done, that doesn't mean they don't still want more. So feel free to continue to make those empty bowls. I had an email last week, said they're looking, these are off the top of my head, they'd like to have 2,000 bowls, and they were up around 1,200 pledged. So anyway, make those empty bowls. And thank you to everybody that has brought some in. Turn for Troops, there'll be an event in November. That's all I know. It's just traditional. If you have any questions, I'm sure you could talk to Greg Richter. He'll be organizing that to the best of my knowledge. If you've made pins for troops, you can drop them in the drop box out here in the entryway. That's the best way to get them.
Oh, really? Oh, that's interesting.
The wood raffle, I mentioned at the beginning, we will have one woodcraft card for 25 bucks, I believe it is, George, right? So that'll be the first thing that we raffle off. But we also have 3 or 4 craft supplies gift cards. Those are $10 each. And beginning tonight, we have some Carter and Sons certificates. So if you're not familiar with Carter and Sons, there are some brochures over here on the table. There are also some sharpening guides that they supplied us with, and they gave us some stickers too. So if you want a Carter and Son sticker, come see me and I'll try to remember where I put them. But anyway, those are for $30 and not everybody wants a Carter and Son tool, and I understand that, but $30 to me would be a significant reduction in the cost of one of them, if that's something you've been pining for. So as we go through the raffle, if that's what you would like, is one of the Carter and Sons certificates, we'll give out one of those tonight, one next month and one in November. So, all right.
Yeah, that's when I hit the mouse pad, it went.
Clear as mud. All right, that's all I got. Board members, did I forget anything? Thank you. All right, so we're gonna do show and tell. And I'm gonna move the mic over here into this little gap. Right here. And I'll grab my stuff. Yeah, move that call. Just drop it on the floor, right?
What the heck is going on here?
Too many. I'll be full. I promise.
What did we do last time?
Yeah, that's up here, right?
Zoom.
Well,
Was it a meeting?
this is a piece of wood. I think I got it here. I think somebody, and I can't remember who, handed this to me and said, here, maybe you can make something out of this. I almost threw it away. I was cleaning up in preparation for a guest this week and I kicked this. And I actually think I had it in the loader bucket at one time. And I'll take that out and see if I can make anything out of it. But it has a lot of stuff going on in it. Ultimately.
Back to view
These
meeting.
next three pieces. This is
Zoom
honey
meeting now.
locust, it's crotch figure. This is an instance where I put the crotch or the limb, if you will, or the piece of wood on the
Tries you.
mill. And I milled for
Show
this
management,
figure.
this one, show
I
chat,
deliberately
nope.
made my cuts to try to be able to make a bowl.
Screenshot?
Autofill.
And I'm quite pleased with how they came out.
No, I ain't doing
The
it.
black crack on this one is a product that I've just started using. It's the Stick Fast Colored CA. And I sell it upstairs and that stuff works a treat. You can put a big old blob on the wood, but yet when you sand down, it seems to all go away except for where the crack is. I was real pleased to see that. At this moment, I'm at 107 empty bowls for 2024. This is not mine. What happened? I grabbed the wrong bowl. Anyway, so oak, cherry, black walnut, just a quick thing about this. I've been putting a decorative ring around the top of the bowl. This one I decided to do in reverse. The decoration is all over the bowl with just a leaf ring at the top. So, all right. Next.
I think I just turned the mouse off.
We got right in the bowl. I'm sorry. When?
Get on the safe side there.
Made the mistake of leaving a copy of the American Woodturner magazine around. My wife saw it. So she asked me to make some of the lidded finial vessels. The first one I just grabbed a piece of.
Can I have you hold it up so that you can see it behind the, there you go.
Yes, a piece of maple and an unnamed dark wood from top, which in case anyone tried to pick this up, there's a little more brittle than I thought. Dragged out. Second one's a piece of last month and maple, which held together much better.
What the way? Oh, it's not very good. There's a roll hole in it. Ooh.
So I had another go at the espresso cup. I spoke to someone named Homer that was at the meeting last month, and he suggested that I use 100% pure tongue oil as a finish. So this is 7 coats of tongue oil.
Oh, jeez.
Each coat needs 3 days to dry in between. So And there's a coat of beeswax on top. So, yeah, this one's cherry. It's an interesting piece of cherry that it seems to have like tiger striping in it. And then this is, kind of the first end grain box that I made. It's a piece of walnut. It was like a scrap from a bowl blank. And, got a food safe finish on it, but it's,
There you go.
There you go.
I don't know if you guys know Ron Engen, he makes these comfort birds. And this colorful wood in here is the part he throws away.
Oh,
Cuts
okay.
out and glues up a
Okay.
block,
Yeah.
all different types of wood. Then he cuts it out, and the part that goes from the bird's head down the tail, he throws that away. So he gave me some of these. And so I just recut them, so there's about a 10-degree angle on it. They're all different sizes. I don't try to make them the same size. And then the rim around is buckthorn, and the bottom base, a little piece of walnut in here. And I just give it a wax finish. I tried gloss and just color them with it. So I don't do much more than J. Pilling's wax. This here I should be able to get $500 for this for all the grief I went through. First of all, it's a tree up on our farm. It's spruce. White spruce. My dad planted them when I was a kid for a windbreak. The wind blew on it. The wind blew the top off, hit the TV antenna, bent that, landed on our house. The neighbor took it off. I saved a couple of pieces because I never turned spruce. Got it all nice, beautiful, sanded. I had to turn it around in a lathe. Be careful how I chucked it up. In fact, I put some tape around it. I just had to clean up the bottom. Well, it came out, it bounced around, fell on the floor, broke a chip off, got some dents. Well, it kind of ticked me off, but I was gonna leave it and just call it rustic. So I stained it with this steel wool and vinegar. So it turned out nice and dark, purple, blue, black, whatever you wanna call it. Sat on my bench for about 3-4 months because I didn't like it. Finally, I'm gonna redo it. So sanded it all off, resanded, fixed it. Gave it another coat with the steel wool and vinegar. Now it turned army green. I didn't do the inside, just the out. Army green, well, I couldn't have that. Sanded it down again. Restained it with, I looked in my cabinet, I found some ripped clothes dye. Well, by God, that turned out the same color as the other one, so perfect. Well, now the buddy of mine says, well, gloss finish. Well, that didn't look good because you couldn't see the grain. So I took that off.
How thick was the wall start?
I'm gonna restain it now with the clothes dye and just give it a J. Pilling wax job, which I did. So I'm starting to stain it. I looked at the bottom and I still got my tailstock mark in here. And I thought, well, I'll just tell everybody that's the maker's mark. So what I did, I did a little moving work down here. I wasn't about to change it. I did it enough, and I kind of got a rule that if you try to fix something once and it doesn't work, throw the damn thing away. I didn't do it. I got a class reunion now coming up at the end of the month. This will be a door prize, and I'm sure it'll be just fine. But I usually take up about a dozen things for door prizes. So, but this thing is a hell of a lot more work than it was worth. I got one other piece of spruce. I don't know, I might burn that.
That's pretty good.
Well, I guess we can talk about all of the problem children together. If a friend or anybody ever offers to give you any white cedar, tell them you have sold your lady. This, I got a pile of this from a friend, because I showed up thinking it was red cedar. She just said cedar. So I thought, oh, it's white cedar. And I couldn't say no because I'm there. So I made some pieces and every one of them has been a problem because this wood is very brittle. It's full of bark inclusions, it's full of cracks. And this is about as thin as you can go with it, or it just shatters. It just falls apart. But it does have some pretty grain in it here and there, so it's, you're stubborn, I guess, it's worth it. But anyway, so this is the latest piece that I made, and once I started turning into it, I found this huge crack, and so it doesn't really go all, well, it does kind of go all the way through, but anyway, I thought I'd play with it, and so I drilled some holes, and I turned some, this is a purple heart dowels, and drilled those, and now I have a smiley face, or moon faces, or call it, and the base is also the purple heart, and then, I was a little scared of the bark included, I thought at any minute the whole thing would just fall apart, but it didn't. I just filled it with NCA and it holds together. So, I got about 10 more pieces of this wood, and I'm kind of getting to the same point, like maybe I'll just burn this. There's other wood, right? You don't have to spend your time on it. But anyway, one more piece down with something to show for it. Yes.
Those were just empty, for empty gold. But I can just go quick. Sure. Sure.
And then we have some empty bowls over here too, if anybody wants to talk about.
So I was motivated by Tony's goal of having 50 at one time and then turned into 100. Is that how that works? So I've turned a few. This happens to be American elm. Turned out nice. I like the idea of putting a little decorative on top. Took a piece of black walnut, and fortunately, it only cracked a little bit. But I noticed that this head was really white when I turned it, and then I was sanding it, it all stained. Is that normal for black walnut? Where you're getting this, the heartwood staining the sapwood?
Right, yeah, hardwood softer.
Is there a way to prevent that?
Standing sealer on it.
Yeah, you'd have to seal it before you sand it.
Got a lot to learn. And then found a piece of Norway maple that I took down for a friend of mine and turned this. So I think I'll put that in empty bowls. My wife really liked it, but I'll just have to make another one. And then just today I turned, just before this meeting, a black or a Siberian elm, which is the most ugliest, worthless tree ever from an artist's perspective, but it has one redeeming quality. So there is a piece of elm back there on the wood pile of some of the wood. So okay.
All right. So it's 7 o'clock, Jim. He was here a minute ago.
He's hiding behind you.
Okay.
Yeah.
I cannot do a song and dance routine for an hour and a half. But Jim can. So Jim Andresen, I was telling somebody the other day, Jim and a fellow on Jim's on Facebook, and I'm on Facebook. I'm not necessarily proud of that, but if you really want your mind blown is when Jim Andresen and Jim Anderson start communicating back and forth on Facebook. It's hard to keep the players straight.
Right.
You have to see it in writing, I guess.
That's right, everybody can see that.
All right, that's right, right. So Jim is gonna talk to us about segmenting, right?
Yes. Hello, thanks for coming, everybody. Just a couple comments on Tony's comment about Facebook. There's a couple. wasn't ever, never on Facebook up until maybe a year and a half ago. And my daughters kind of said, yeah, you should just, whatever. And my wife's always on there, whatever. Anyway, they've got some different groups. And there's like a couple segmented groups. I don't know if anybody's on there or joined there, but kind of interesting. I mean, you get some pretty good feedback and, it's kind of fun to look at everything. But it's gotten to be kind of a interesting thing, because we spent some time down in Florida. And we had posted some pictures, shark skin hunting with the grandkid by Venice Beach, and somebody who I heard the name of before, because I knew his stuff, contacted me through Facebook and said, yeah, I saw you, posted something, I've seen some of your stuff, and I saw you were only like 8 miles away from where I live. You have a shop down here, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, got to know this guy really well. He's about 83, 84 years old. He's Paul Bartlett. I've mentioned him kind of before here in talking with some of the people. He lives outside of Fort Myers, and he got into the soccer ball thing and the rhombus thing, and the guy is just amazing and a real good inspiration. But that all kind of came, kind of a cool friendship through Facebook. Anyway, just want to throw that out there. Okay, segmenting. It doesn't have to be intimidating. And if you look on YouTube, they make it look impossible. And, it takes forever, and it's got to be absolutely positively perfect. And it's almost too intimidating. And I get, taking a gouge, I love turning wet wood and, natural edge stuff, but segmenting gives you kind of the option to have different shapes. You can't, to get something like this on your lathe to turn, it's like impossible. And you can just, all it is these are just rings of 24 stacked up. It's hollow, you kind of hollow as you go. This is going to have a couple more rings on the top to make it kind of a closed thing, but just an example of what you can do with segment, size-wise and shape. Gives you a lot of options. So I'm gonna just, there's a million ways to do it, and I'm just gonna kind of hit on a couple things that I think make it so much faster and so much easier and still super accurate. So, for starters, how many segments? Do many guys do it? Handful? Well, like I say, it's not for everybody, easy, but I'll just kind of throw a couple things out there. First of all, you're segmenting, try millimeters. And if you don't use millimeters in your regular woodworking, give it a try. Millimeters are so much easier to use. It is incredible. I don't know why we're not millimeters. It's so easy to use. So millimeters comes in handy for sure. As far as designing, there's a lot of software programs out there that you don't need. When I first kind of, this was probably maybe like 10 years ago.
What was that on?
There's a wood turner program,
Oh, that's right.
and you can kind of print out
Yeah,
not only
there we go. I was wondering why.
not only a picture of your segment width and length, but it also gives you like a cut sheet and all the details. So you can kind of design this, pretty easy to use. It's probably been on the market for maybe 15 years or so, I'd say. And now they have 3 other versions. There's a laminated coat, something, I think, and it's good for cutting boards and kind of fancy segmented bases and stuff, but
Wonder why God wasn't telling me long enough.
it kind of good, a good way to kind of start getting into it. So they give you like some samples. And of course, I went through every single sample and sized it out, and printed it out, and kind of got used to just, form, design, size, and that kind of really got me kind of into it more from a design standpoint, and then just kind of, I never use it anymore, but that kind of got me at least, kind of acquainted with sizes and angles and whatever. So, first of all, I'm gonna hit on what's real common is, this is probably a piece I did maybe 35 years ago. And segmenting the bottom and having it come to an absolutely perfect point is something you really, really try to do, and I did, and it never, ever holds up. Okay, so just kind of keep that in mind. So either do a solid bottom or what they call a floating bottom. So you just have like a little rabbit, and then you just have a round disc kind of floating in a rabbit, kind of where it can kind of move. Because if you try to get this on the bottom, very thin bottom or even thick, over time, moisture, that's gonna kind of split on you. So it kind of looks cool when you're doing it, but be real careful on the bottom. For something big, I would say anything like 6 inches or less, I would use a solid bottom. For like these guys, I use Baltic birch, and then I have about a 3/8 inch piece of maple on the bottom. So once I turn this off, I can still get like a, a couple beads on the bottom, and it kind of can look pretty good. Let's see, I didn't bring one that's finished. But you can kind of have the bottom finished. And I'm gonna finish a couple bottoms, and you'll kind of see what I'm talking about. So, once you have your design, and I'm just gonna do a little 2-minute. You can just do it on graph paper or regular paper. And let's see, here, here's a center line. We'll just do like a little base kind of thing. Okay, and I'm gonna draw. Let's say I'm gonna use 3/4 inch. Imagine that's 3/4 of an inch. Strips of wood. And I'll mark them on my piece of paper. I'm only gonna do half. I'm gonna kind of make my wall thickness. Thinner isn't necessarily always better, depending on the size of the object. 3/8 of an inch, 1/2 inch if it's bigger. It doesn't have to be paper thin. And with pieces being handled and everything, I tend to go a little bit thicker, and I beat a lot of them, so I kind of keep it a little bit thicker, but it doesn't have to be super thin. But let's just for sake, that's gonna be our wall thickness for this piece. And as far as turning, give yourself like maybe 1/4 inch to play with. And I'll just kind of mark these. And again, it can be like this. It doesn't have to be very exact, is what I'm saying. It can be this. I don't want to see slotting, but. What I'm gonna do here is draw lines down. I'm just kind of connecting here. And this is how I can determine the width of the piece that I need. So all I'm gonna do is take my millimeters, and I'm gonna measure from the center line to here. It's 130 millimeters times 2, because I want the diameter and the circumference. So I'm gonna take 260 times pi 3.14. You can round it down to 3.1. You can even round it down to 3, and you're gonna be amazed at what the difference. I know for the engineers and mathematicians, you don't want to hear this, but the size of your ring, especially if we're talking something under 8 inches, is minuscule, believe it or not. And if you have this much extra play as far as turning, you have design opportunity. It's amazing where you're gonna see on YouTube, they're gonna be going out 4 decimal points. They're gonna be they're gonna use a wedgie sled. They're gonna be using their micrometer, and they're gonna be measuring exactly, 2.7036 for their segment length. Instead, if it's millimeters, that's 47. You know what I mean? It's kind of easy to kind of calculate and kind of measure, so. Be real aware of not having to be absolutely positively exact, because you're giving yourself play to turn anyways, and you're taking a lot of material. Okay, so once you get that, how are you gonna cut this stuff? What makes it kind of quick and super accurate is I make my own sled here. It's a designated sled for 12 segments. So anything under like 12 inches, I'll use 12 segments for the circle, for the rings. Anything bigger, I'll use 24. So I only need like 2 sleds. They're dialed in. I'll use a tilt box for make sure my blade, the verticality on my saw blade is perfect. And the big thing with the wedgie sled, if anybody's into the segmenting and, you know, the wedgie sled concept, is you're almost assuming that the verticality on your saw blade is inaccurate. So what they do is you're gonna take like a squiggly line on the top, on here, cut on this side. It's like 2 alternating arms on the wedgie sled, and you stick in these wedges and do the cutting that way. You flip, you cut, 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 cut. Every time you make a segment ring, you've got to remeasure. Something like this, all I do is, this is my 38 millimeter spacer. I'll stick that in against a permanent stop. Got a permanent stop right here. And I have spacers like every 2 millimeters. So if I want a 36 millimeter segment length, all I do is clamp that in, and I can cut 11 today, 20 tomorrow, 670 the next day. I can grab out of the bin any one of them, put the 12 together, and they're gonna be perfect. Where if you've got a wedgie sled, you know, you're measuring exact. Geez, I cut 11, then I went and did something else. I'm gonna glue them up tonight. I go back. Can I get exactly that exact segment length measuring? Maybe, but you've got to go through that whole drill. This way, this whole box here is full of different segment length. And I can just plug one in. You know, make it 72, 35, whatever. And I can duplicate and replicate that exact segment. So I can take here's 12 right here. And what you're gonna do is usually when you cut a
He's gonna
segment,
move that. Yeah.
you're gonna have a little fuzz on it. So I have a sanding disc in here, and I can kind of rub off the. You're usually gonna get it on 3 sides: the bottom side of the cut here, here, and then on the back side. So really, there's really only 3 places that you need to just kind of hit them to get sanded, so they won't interfere when you glue. Once you do that, they're ready to glue up. You're gonna see a lot of different glue methods out there. Probably the most common is band clamps. So I'm gonna need my driver, you know, with a hexagon head on there. I'm gonna have my band clamps. Once I get my pieces together, get this out of here. To get your pieces together. And I can grab any one out of here, because they're all the same. So band clamp, you're gonna screw, you glued up your pieces. A lot of times guys, you know, dump a puddle of glue. They've got their brush, they're brushing both sides, put one down at a time, pick it up, same thing. Put that down, you know, maybe do a little rub joint, slide them together, and kind of work their way around. Something that's a lot easier I stack and stack before. Especially like this size, these are a little over 3/4 of an inch. I'll take rubber bands. The new thing of rubber band. You can buy these online, I think they're about like $8.50. These are size 84 rubber bands.
64, I think.
And
No?
approximately
Oh, 84?
150. So. What you can do. Is, I'm gonna show you one other option here. That you'll see a lot of guys do, they'll do the tape method.
You wanna go pull that top thing off that big tall one. That's what I'm saying.
Anybody use this green tape? Familiar with that? Scotch makes this tape, it's for rough surfaces. And it sticks great. Not that expensive. So you just kind of turn the side over, you lay it down, you butter it up with your glue, and then kind of lay it down one piece at a time. And if you don't want to butter them up as you go, you set them all on here. And then it's kind of easier to wrap them up.
Excuse me.
And all you do is kind of take the tape, wrap it up. And there you've got your ring. Okay. Putsy, messy. If I don't have it absolutely positively perfect on a piece of tape, you know, it kind of gets stuck there. I've got to kind of really force it to kind of move it around. It works, but I don't think that's the easiest and most efficient way to do it. So what I like to do is I like to stack them. I'll I had glue here, but I don't see it. So I'll pretend this is my glue bottle, all right? I have a perfect spreader on the tip of my glue bottle. Okay, the nozzle on the end of the glue bottle, I'll take up the stack of 4, angle it and apply the glue just like this. And I'm gonna get it on there as good, if not better, than if I brushed it on me. I'm only gonna do one side, so bang, bang, maybe back and forth 2 or 3 times, down, slide them together. Next one, same thing, down, slide them together. And I'm gonna do it this loose and sloppy because I'm gonna want this glue to spread. And just like, and I'll lay them down just like that. I'll slide them together. Rubber band. I'll usually put 2 rubber bands on each one, maybe 3 depending. These are new, so they're kind of stiff. And what I did is both of these, I cut just a little bit off. All right, so if you look here, and this is another stumbling block for a lot of people that do segmenting. You know, looks kind of good. But I don't like it. So what I would do is I would use a finishing nail, which I didn't bring, but you can use like anything. I saw a pencil over here. I'll take that one. Is there something over there? Just anything? So a little skinny dowel, little finishing nail. And again, what could happen then, you could cut these by hand. You could cut them with a chop saw. You could do whatever. And if your angles are off a little bit and you kind of rubber band them together and you've got some gaps here, I can kind of see light. I'm holding it to the light. Instead of like, that's it. I'm not good at it. Get 2 little finishing nails, spread it away right in the middle here, right in half. And if it was straight and not here. Kind of paper. So that brings all the air to those two spots. Okay, I'm gonna let this dry, maybe 30 minutes. And then I'll take the two halves and I'll just push them up against a disc sander. And if you don't have one, you know, make your own, stick it on the lathe, just use one of your face plates, put a little 12-inch disc, get a, 12-inch piece of, sanding disc from upstairs, and that's, you're gonna have your own disc sander. Make a little flat platform, and now after that's dry for a half hour, I'm gonna take those two halves and just bump them up there, sweeten them up, and I've got an absolutely perfect joint with maybe the lamest cutting methods. I mean, seriously, you could cut them with the old miter saw, hand saws or something. So again, don't get paralyzed on, setting up your saw absolutely perfect to do this. Tony mentioned Alan Stratton. I don't know if anybody has seen him on YouTube. He's on there a lot. Have you seen him on there? So he's got a YouTube video, and I think he cuts them by hand. And I don't know if he calls it like segmenting for dummies or I don't know what you call it, some little cute little name or whatever. But anyway, he does it real inaccurate, but because of the sanding thing, and you put them together, these terrible looking joints become perfect on every single one. So, like I say, you could cut them on your miter saw or anything, and you're gonna be able to get a perfect joint just by doing that. And again, just a little finishing nail, and if you're worried about you're gonna destroy it's gonna be an oval shaped ring, your air is only gonna be a smidgen. You're only taking just a little bit off and expand it, so kind of keep that one in mind. The gluing can be really fast and easy. You don't have to waste glue pouring it into a little cup or puddle and both sides and doing the whole drill. Just pick them up, down, 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 and then use rubber bands. If you use clamps, a lot of times you're going to use that clamp, and once you get it clamped on, it's not going to be like perfect. And if I use rubber band, I can pick it up and not even look at it, and I'm going to get it absolutely smooth on the bottom by hand, and I'm going to know all the corners are perfectly stretched out to the edge just with my hand. And now I know this is good. I'll set it aside, let it dry. If you use a band clamp, a lot of times, some of your pieces kind of slide a little bit. And if you watch somebody do this, they're going to be taking a hammer. And after they get it on, they're kind of tight. They're smashing it with a hammer, making sure everything's flat. And after they do that, now they retighten it and just kind of crank on it. And if you have kind of a lousy seam, you never want to force a bad seam shut just by the tightening. So rubber bands, you'd be amazed, the tension you have just on these guys. Just kind of pass it around and just see. So, that joint, I'd probably do a half joint on that one. And same thing with sanding, that doesn't have to be a big thing. You're just kind of hitting the edges a little bit. I'll just do. Any questions on anything, or anybody do it different that works pretty good?
On your jig,
Yeah.
what are you cutting that with? What are you physically cutting that?
That's on a table saw.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's on a table saw. So there's just two runners on the bottom. Actually, these are metal because I use this one all the time. But if you're gonna just do, the reason I brought the sleds, if you're gonna make something a little bit more complicated, if you can get a sled, if you're gonna make one, you might as well make a sled. Now I can make 2 of them or 5 of them or 10 of them. and it's gonna be the same and exact and precise. So this right here, all I've got is one runner. I drill a little hole in the end. And then I'm gonna use a screw, and that little bit of tension on both sides, I can kind of get it kind of fitting nice and snug in my runner there on my saw. You know, I don't want any play at all. I want it to slide and move, and I'll wax it and, you know, have it slide that way, but, you know, I don't want any little teeny weeny movement on these things. So if I can feel that as I'm pushing it through, I'll just kind of give it a little twist here, maybe a little one in the back, and now it's gonna be a snugger fit, and I'll have that exact angle. I have like a Wixie angle, digital angle finder that I use all the time and trust, and a little tilt box that I use and trust. You know, that kind of helps everything. So, you know, when you do like the rhombus thing, you know, those diamonds, that's actually, there's 30 diamonds that make up those things. And it's called the golden rhombus. So that means that, anybody familiar with the golden rule, you know, the 2/3 kind of a thing? Well, your A distance here and your B distance goes by the golden rule, so it's 1.64 or whatever is the difference here. As long as that's what you're using, that's gonna work. So that's the golden rule, the golden rhombus, that's what that thing is referred to as. And that would be so for different size, you know, same thing here, you know, just different wood. So that's what gives you that, you know, that Esser or Essler. Yeah, the Escher, yeah, the Escher kind of, you know, depending on, this is just kind of random pieces, but you can kind of see the box sort of look there on that one. But anyway, same kind of deal. And that's just 2 cuts. First cut's up here, and again, there's different spaces that you're gonna use. I don't think I brought the,
Hey, Jim, could you
Yeah.
hold it up so you can see what you're pointing at?
Sure. So you're gonna cut your first angle. First of all, you're gonna set this, this is actually one of the easier ones to do. Because all you're doing is setting your saw blade 18-degree tilt. Okay? Once you kind of figure out that A and B distance, you're gonna run this through your table saw, you're gonna put your fence, you know, maybe this might have been like, I think it was like 2.2 inches maybe wide. So I'm gonna do both sides first. Okay, and establish those 2 sides. Then I'm gonna make my second cut right here.
You want it tilted so Tom can see it?
Yeah, whoops. My first, so I've got these 2 sides were cut on my table saw with my fence. Then my first cut is just gonna be here, and I'm just gonna make it a little bit past. Thank you.
Let me hold it for you, you're old.
Ooh.
So, first cut is gonna, actually will be the third cut, so again, these are your first 2. First cut's right here, and I'm just gonna make sure that the end of my piece, and this can be a long piece, so like this is kind of the glue up for, I thought I brought that one. Well, this is gonna be a rhombus one. So this would be it, you can see, 18 degrees. Now all I'm gonna do is right here, perfect, that's my first cut. Okay, now I'm gonna have a spacer that I have right there, kind of same concept as cutting segments. I'm gonna clamp in that spacer. So now that next cut would be, you know, probably like right about there. So that spacer would fit right in there. And now I just kind of slam it up there, run it through, and this is what I get. And they're all gonna be exactly like this. So that's why they fit, and that's why the seams, you know, this is, you know, there's 30 diamonds, and if you look close, you know, pass it around. I mean, they're reasonable. Semi-reasonable. You can be the judge, but I mean, you know, it's a lot of glue joints, and Yeah, just cut a couple, yeah.
So you said earlier that making a bottom with the several things coming together at once is really hard. Why are the spheres easy if bottoms of bases are hard?
That's so cool.
I think it's because they're usually thinner, like that right there is gonna be this thick of a piece, you know? Where usually the bottoms are
Gorgeous.
thinner, and
Wild.
it just. You know, I've done some of those, especially like these, you know, I probably did a bunch of these like 20 years ago or something. You know, like the steam are pretty good. I don't know, that's a good question, but it sure seems,
Beautiful.
yeah. I don't know.
There is no bottom.
Yeah, they're bottom.
There is no bottom.
They're bottom loaded. Yeah, but anyway. And the same thing with these guys. Well, I just put a finish on here. I use that,
Let's see what the seams.
that white bond turning finish that they have upstairs, what is it called? I just started using it.
General.
I'm just another, yeah, tube kind of thing, yeah. Yeah, wood turner's finish, yeah. So here you get to see a run on this one. This is gonna get resanded, but at least you can
That's crazy.
pass around and kind of, just look at the joints. I mean, just to get an idea. And again, it starts out, you know, looking sort of not great.
Beautiful stuff.
And even here, you know, you can kind of see some of the seams, but once you turn it, you know, you get past that. Sometimes there's a chip out of it. Anyway, so just another form of segmenting besides the ring thing. And just kind of can't emphasize enough the sled deal. Okay, so in making like the soccer balls, you know, feel free to take a picture if you ever want to like make one, because I've got all the angles on here and everything. You use two different. Yeah.
Maybe so Tom can see it over, get pictures, the camera guy.
Here we go.
Yeah, that's better.
So.
Thanks,
just
Vanna.
A 2-minute explanation on a soccer ball. Again, not quite as complicated once you get it set up. You're gonna take a block of wood, like for this one, I took a block, you know, 3¼ inches by 3½ inches. You know, I cut little blocks like that. Okay, now I'm gonna cut, before I cut them into lengths, I'm gonna run a piece with the saw fence. You know, here's the angle, 20.905. And I'm using my tilt box. Crank it, you can find it, you can kind of get there, you know, zero it out and then trust it. So I'm gonna run this board all the way through, cut this side, flip it around, cut the opposite angle all the way through. So now I got 2 things cut. So now my third cut, I'm gonna use this spacer. Okay, this isn't for this exact one, but this spacer would fit here. And I'm gonna cut my next. Let's see here. I had it. So this would have been a very small spacer. This is for little soccer balls. So I would have, here, give you an idea. Something more similar to that. You know, so now that's gonna get clamped in right here. And now I'm gonna cut this side, turn it, that side. Here. And then for the last cut. Again, smaller spacer, but another spacer for the 4th, 5th, and 6th cut. So it's just that spacer thing. So there's, you know, different spacers for different size ones that you're gonna make. So that's how you do the hexagons. And then for the pentagons, right, yeah. Same kind of deal. Here I'm just gonna cut one side, okay? So to get that first, you can't kind of tell, it's gotta be a square piece for the first cut. So you're gonna cut that angle, and then once you get that angle, Then you're gonna flip it around and you're gonna get all the rest of the angles. It's gonna be something smaller than that, but then that's how you get all the rest of the angles. So kind of a quick, kind of fast version, but then what's gonna happen is, they're gonna match. Good.
What's the angle, vector angle?
16.46
Okay.
for the pentagon. So it's just two settings on your saw, couple spacers.
Couple beers.
Is that millimeters?
Millimeters. So, that's that. We gotta turn a little bit here. Oh, here, I was saying, it's bigger, so depending on the size, it's the same ratio as far as spacing go. Once you do segmenting and get something, it can be any kind of wood. Don't get like locked in. It's gotta be a hardwood. It's gotta be walnut or cherry or whatever. It can be oak, it can be softwood, it could be anything. A little more chunky-ish kind of, if it's a poplar or something like that. But it can be any kind of wood. Don't get locked in as long as it's not green, it's doable. So, these are oak right here. I just brought some oak ones just so, oak is fine. And we had that demo like 6 months ago or something. This was the first version, we cut the wave thing. But,
It was a year ago this month.
was it really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Times it
Yeah, so this one I
fast.
dropped, and it's cracked. I did about 5 or 6 of these. This was the first one, and I ended up using the wrong sequence of, for the router bit. So this was gonna be teeny weeny little ties, a little bit oversized. Yeah. I used the wrong adapter there. Anyway, that's that. Football, same concept as far as, the rings, building it up. For the laces, just took maple. I actually used some glycerin, like 1 part glycerin, 1 part denatured alcohol, and 3 parts water. Soaked them for like maybe 45 minutes or something. And then I just took maple strips like that, maybe this wide, maybe that long, and I just put them around a board, and I just clamped them underneath. So I just kind of wrapped it because they're super flexible. I had it pretty thin, obviously, the wood was super thin, but then just kind of wrapped them around the board. That little piece, and it would curve and really hold the thing. I press it down and then I just clamp them underneath. I took a heat gun and dried it out so I could see that everything was kind of evaporated and gone, and I just let them sit for a couple hours or whatever, and then just kind of, actually I used the scissors and I could just cut the laces with the scissors. Drilled a little hole so it looks like they're like in something. The middle seams are McDonald's coffee stirred.
Oh, geez.
That's what I thought.
And that's all the secret. Yeah, yeah.
Talk about after you get it glued up, sanding the rings and gluing.
Okay, perfect. So after you glue it up, if you're lucky enough to have a drum sander, this makes it crazy easy. And if you don't have one, if you've got a friend that's got one, give them a call and see if you can borrow it. Because this really makes it a heck of a lot easier. What you can do is when I first started doing this, I had a big piece of sandpaper. Like huge. It was like from a 24-inch disc sander. I used that 77 spray adhesive.
Yeah.
Had it on the bench, and I'd pencil line it, and by hand I would until the pencil lines went away, and then it was good to go. And then I would just flip it around, do the same thing, not exactly perfectly parallel, obviously, probably, but once you kind of build things up, again, that's another thing that kind of can be like a mental block. Look, it's not perfectly parallel. By the time you turn the top, and again, excuse me, especially if you're just doing kind of shape building and not having a feature ring, the little minute off you might be as far as parallel, you're not gonna see anyway. So that, excuse me, that's one way you can do it. Another way you can do it is one of these guys. And I know somebody here that's got me. What do you think? You use yours a lot? or-
We just lose him.
We just lost him.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, huh? No, geez. Flat master? Huh?
I don't.
Did you get one? I thought you had one of these. I thought you had one of these. Okay, so this is a Velcro drum in here. So if you're into like cutting boards and doing all that kind of stuff, am I in a good spot here?
No, I'm just trying to lost your microphone.
So, it's Velcro, it's made out of, from Canada, it's called a Flatmaster.
Better drop the batteries on that thing too.
Yeah.
I think he unplugged it. So.
Did I?
Let's see what happened, yeah.
Can I add something?
Sure can.
The cheapest way to do it is to take just a regular sheet of sandpaper, glue it to a board, and once you have your,
We'll get to
you
that.
put your ring on the lathe and it's glued on there, just take that flat piece of board with the sandpaper on it, you sand the ring right on the lathe.
Yeah, you can, and your board should be maybe like 2 or 3 inches wide. And
Check
you
the
get it in
battery.
pieces so you can kind of put pressure on. So you can just put pressure on it again.
There it is.
I'm not guaranteed that paralleleness, but you don't have to. You just want to get them smooth enough. So when you do join them
Partially
together,
unplugged. Partially unplugged.
Now you just turn the power off somehow.
No. Okay.
That's kind of, because recessed, I don't know how you can do that.
I mean, just, you know, so there's a little teeny gap on that one, but I think as you turn, you're not gonna see it. So Mark's idea with his ornaments, last Monday, I had a brainstorm, everybody's gonna walk out with this today. So I was making 60 of these. I didn't get the wood until Monday. I've had a million things going on. I got there's like, just under 5,000 pieces. Everything's glued together. I think by tomorrow I'd have it all, but I didn't have enough, so next meeting, these are gonna be sitting there and feel free to grab them. So, just turn the inside, you know, turn the outside first, I'm gonna do that now, like, so I'm talking here. Turn the outside first, match the inside for the outside. I'll show you a real easy way to open it up from the top. And a real easy way to finish the body. So I'm gonna talk for 10 more minutes and then I'm gonna turn it and do that. So, or it's dry maple and it burns great, so if you I mean, if that's not your thing, this is a great starter, right? Yeah, so anyway, that's that. So, yeah. So I can put this on. And it's, this is 120 grit paper. And I did pencil, I'll do some more. I'll do pencil lines on the bottom. And I'll just run this over. Pencil lines are gone, this baby is ready to glue up. And I can do the other side. And again, is that perfectly parallel?
They have to be parallel.
In fact, I was gonna mention this, but I don't wanna just keep rambling here, but I'm gonna. As far as segments, when you do segmenting, you can make however many segments you wanna make. So just kind of for fun, I did all different segment numbers. And if you do like 6 segments, you're gonna have big corners. So now you're losing a whole lot of wood here. little choppier, a little tougher to turn, whatever, so 6, yeah, you can do it, but, you know, not that great. As you get higher, it gets rounder, so this is 8. So I just kind of, and it just, and these I did a while ago, and that's more, I mean, yeah, I mean, the joints are still. Yeah, 4, do 4. You know, you're not gonna get much of a circle and not much depth there, but just to give you an idea. If you do a even number, you can always do the halves and kind of save it, you know, 18, 20, 11, 13. And I haven't looked at here. A little bit of a gap, but I mean, I haven't looked at these things, for a couple of years, and they've been sitting in the basement. But there's the trusty 12, boom, great for building, but again, you can kind of pick and choose. If you pick 12, it's a 15-degree angle on your sled. So calculating angles, 360 degrees. Okay, divide by 12, it's 30, there's 2 cuts on each side, so half of 30 is 15, so that's how I'm gonna figure out my angles, no matter what it is, if it's, whatever, 16, it's gonna be 11.25. It's just a great, easy number to use. Make it easy on yourself, it's an engine, your chop saw, 15 degree, there's a little setting there, trust it, whack off 12 of them, glue them together, if there's a little gap, stick a finishing nail in halfway and sand them up on your little homemade disc sander on your lathe, and you are like golden, you're good to go.
Why don't you go with an odd number of segments? You said 13 on that one.
Then you gotta
Why would you?
pay attention, no reason, that was exercise, nothing to do with that. I was just messing around, but yeah. Just that it can be done, it doesn't, you can get good angles if you play around with it. I'm just gonna keep rambling here now, start. So, Carlin is like
Sanders
that.
kinda nice.
Just a couple months ago, probably 2 years ago,
Yeah.
probably 2 years ago. And it was just a 5-gallon bucket of water. Put in, that seaweed, what was that? Alum or?
Well, we didn't even need it for that.
Oh, yeah, we didn't even need it.
Great.
Yeah, for this, we didn't need it. Just plain water in a 5-gallon Home Depot bucket, I think. We took spray paint cans and
Sprayed it on the water.
sprayed it on the water.
We painted the base first, a base color.
Yeah, in fact, I think I painted this. I don't know what the base was on this. It might have just been like, and again, this is a rattle can, spray can, probably the gray, and just let it sit for 10 minutes. And then in the water, we sprayed like white paint on the top there. It's sitting on the top surface and just held it like this. Came out like this, let it dry. That's it.
I have a video on my phone if anybody wants to see it. It's a break. It's really.
Yeah.
We got a demo on that.
Yeah, I mean, we did
Woodwork is
10 of
good.
them in like 5 minutes and they turned out really good.
And if you don't like it, you can do it again.
Yeah.
Spray more in and
Yeah.
get some more.
And then you take like a piece of newspaper and you just kind of skim the top and the water's perfect and you put some more paint in there and kind of dip another one. And then what we did is, I think after we dipped it, we actually like, did we plug the end so the water, or we
We
just,
did.
yeah. And then we took like compressed air, just, just so any moisture that might have been in there got out. So, the reason I brought this was, it's segmented, but the joints are decent enough, it's just paint. I mean, you can't see the segment, so you can make the tool shape, you can see right here, it's 2 halves. Do the bottom here, do the top, it's like 2 bowls, slap them together, and all of a sudden, you got something that looks cool, and the inside is perfect, it's sanded right, it's paint dyed, yes.
And you're never turning face to it, or in.
Yeah, that's why I just wanted to let everybody like do one. Cause it's all cycling and it is like butter. I mean, you can turn it with a screwdriver. I'm serious. I mean, yeah.
So that's cool.
I've seen that done on other things, yeah.
You know, when we started, you can just.
So
it's
Jim
short,
taught me how
yeah.
to do this, obviously Jim is a savant with turning. So I was just in Phoenix, I just got back today from my mom's birthday, and my first turning was December of 21. And I did the same thing, the 12, the sled, going, and sure as shit, you don't have to have it anywhere close. And then all you need is a scraper and a parting tool. All that you need. And they all turn out just perfect. But it all comes down to the sled.
It's a one-time setup and, you know, I did a demo on segmenting maybe 3 years ago. And I used the saw stop here. I came
Yeah.
like at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, made a sled. In fact, I don't have a saw stop. I have a Powermatic and I gave the sled to Carl and I brought, he borrowed just to bring it tonight, but I made the sled specifically for that. It took, you know, 6 little tries, you know, to get it dialed in perfect, maybe took 25 minutes. And that thing is absolutely dead on. And just an example, you know, here's the 36 spacer. You know, for a 36 segment. Inches, hang on. And we'll take a break, right? Sorry. And then we'll turn. Yeah.
Look at that.
36.00. Are you kidding me? Every one of them. Here, I'm gonna do one more and then we're taking a break. I got a 34 here. 34. Well, I'm pressing. 34.00.
Look at that.
Come on, every time, no matter what. I don't have to remeasure. I'm going to, you know, I need 2 more segments. Oh, you know, there's a little knot in this one. I gotta redo.
Oh, I didn't finish. I've taken, well, but over one of these. These things like these out here, and it went to the bottom. It's and it looks like the way that the stain takes, it's like, you know, one piece of wood, but it's like it's in half, like one side that you start curving the other.
Yeah. Great.
So it's, it turned out really cool.
So when we come back from break, I'm gonna turn one,
Yeah, we always
inside,
pause-
outside,
pause
with
at
the
the
outside,
break.
open up the top, show you the simplest, easiest way to open up the top, and the easiest way to turn bottoms.
Done here.
Perfect, where you don't have to stand at all. I'm turning this how I want it. I'm putting a couple little beads on the bottom surface so I can. Whatever, but I mean, you can do whatever you want, but I'm just saying, you know, so everybody that picks it up is like. Oh, it's finished, you know, it's nice, not a hole in there, it's not a rabbit in there, it's not a cannon sitting there, it's finished, anyway. And I can use this for anything, you know, for natural edge stuff. I can only use like 3 bolts and kind of position a little bump here instead of a scoop out, and I can turn the bottom of a bowl or anything. So we'll talk about that when we get back, if you hang around.
All right, let's try to get going again. By 8, like try by 8:05.
We'll make it quick, I'll be ready to roll. Yeah, I'll be ready to roll.
I can run this or something.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna start turning, so if you wanna look over, fine. You know what you're doing. So, all these are just done in 2 halves. So I kind of rough turn the outside to sort of the shape, and then I do the inside. So I get the inside sanded. I usually use like a black, there's like that black, milk paint, like I think it's General Finishes maybe. For, just to kind of take the eye away from the inside, you know, if you look at any of these, they're all black in there. And it just, you know, kind of brings the eye to the outside and look at whatever. So if you look at any of these, you know, they're all like that. So you know, if you feel in there, you know, they should be pretty good. I mean, just for fun, just, yeah. You know, any of these, and again, fell, cracked. Too big a bow tie, but if you put your finger in there, kind of. Okay. So, as far as like gluing them together, I'll have the two halves. Make believe these are turned already, and I'll turn one of these after that one. I'll pencil line it. Line it over so the pencil lines are gone. And again, this is great for cutting boards, especially if it's
Interesting.
end grain. So then these are perfect to glue together. I can't see any light there. They're good to go. I put it in my headstock. I can either. What I like to do is I like to take the cone off, leave the pin in there. So, you know, the cone tends to kind of like, you know, find the grain a little bit and maybe shift around a little bit. When I'm putting these
Took paws off.
together.
What?
His
my
paws off.
concern
Yeah.
Is getting that, if I'm going for that brick blade kind of thing, I'm gonna have that, you know, right in the middle of the next joint. So this is in there. This all, just blue bottle, nozzle, perfect spreader, that's how I'm spreading it. I'll just take it, put it down there, twist it a little bit, kind of hold it, and then I'll bring up my tailstock, and I'll have this exactly how I want it. Maybe it's not perfectly right in there, you know, who knows along the way if we've got to change it all, but I've got just that point, so it's gonna find wherever that perfect sweet spot is. Crank it up, tighten it up, I'll leave it on here for 5 minutes. And probably not any longer than that, and then I have a whole bunch of these things that I got from a guy that did a lot of laminating. And I took this big laminating table apart and I just kept the clamps. So these are called veneer clamps. You can get them online. I think these are like 9 inches and I think you can get them for like $16 or something like that. So just made a little platform and then, you know, once I have this together, again, it's only, you know, 5 minutes and it's gonna set. And I'm gonna stick them in here. Not even high enough. It is. And I'll put them in there and, you know, 4 hours, I'll turn them maybe, if that's what I'm doing. You know, not necessarily gluing up a ring, waiting for tomorrow morning to put the next one on. You know, kind of moving, you know, Type Bond kind of says it should be clamped under pressure, I think. It's like 40 to 60 minutes or something like that, I think, under pressure, then you can unclamp. If you're gonna get into the rubber band thing for glue ups and stuff, I leave the rubber bands on about 30 minutes. If you leave them on overnight, the next morning, they're really crispy, really brittle. They're gonna break on you. Take them off while they're still supple and they kind of last a heck of a lot longer. If they start getting all gluey, soak them in warm water and they're good to go. But I mean, these things last a long time and they're great. So that's that thing. But again, really easy to get. I think I haven't seen glasses, but there's like white ones from
Amazon's got that, I've got two
Oh, yeah,
from
yeah.
Amazon, for
Yeah.
$15, I think. Easy.
So because of that veneer thing, I've got like 15 of these mothers. So when I'm really cranking, I can have, you know, I can be assembly line and have them all cooking under the press. Okay, so once I get it on, what I did here, and I did these a couple months ago, I did like too many of these, another one of those started and kind of keep cutting, but I kind of made a little. This was the Forstner bit that I'm gonna use. I was planning on using for the inside opening, so I just kind of like went in there a little ways, so I kind of know how big I wanna have my lip. And I turn this, and I'll turn this, oh, this is the same as that. These are all kind of the same shape. Anyway. So I can just take a scraper. I don't, negative rate scraper. I just do it regular. I'm not exactly sure exactly what this angle is, but I'm gonna duplicate it on my grinder every time, whatever that angle is. Usually when I'm going, I'm gonna be sharpening, you know, maybe every, because of the glue and stuff, you know, 15 or 20 minutes, I'll just, and that's it, I'm good to go. I also have the diamond things where I'll kind of just hit it real quick. And I have like a torment and a jet, you know, those, full water grinders. And my reel, like a week ago, split exactly all the way through, from the outside edge all the way to the middle, and I don't know what caused that or what the deal is, so. I'm gonna figure that out. So all I did here was just kind of, and again, they're pretty darn close, and you kind of like match them up pretty good before you glue them together. And I'm just gonna take the scraper, which I kind of started already. And this one already is pretty sweet. When I get down to the bottom, I can use a parting tool. On its edge, I'm just gonna use the left edge there, and I can just kind of like roll it. And, you know, you could technically, I'm gonna come back right to the middle. And I'm gonna almost like shear scrape the whole piece. Just with my parting tool, and on this one, I'll just, for fun, go right down, keep the taper the same. And again, I'm just rolling left edge, tip. I get rid of this, I get rid of the glue block a little bit. Medium, not bad. I can take my bowl gouge if that's what I want to use, if that's my tool of choice. I'm gonna have my hand down, handle down. Gonna use the bottom edge there. I'll go in perpendicular pretty much with that leading toe, so it doesn't kick back on me, and I can nibble more off of it. If I want to do the whole thing, I'm just gonna kind of shear spray. It's gonna be more of like a, you know, a real risky kind of shaving. Oh, it's not that already. And that's kind of close enough right there. So side grain, you know, I can scrape all day long if I want, if that's what I want to do, no big deal. I mean, it's easy, it's safe, it's comfortable, whatever, okay? When I get to the end, one thing with segmenting, I didn't used to do this, but I'd always have like a segmented top. And again, you know, a lot of the stuff I just have in the basement or, you know, by a window or something, and, you know, so there's moisture changes, and sometimes you would get like a little hairline split there, you know, after 6 months or a year or whatever. So I kind of really went to a solid top on like almost everything I do now. So, you know, if you look at these, you know, this is all segmented rings. This one might have been cherry maybe, and then I did a cherry top and a walnut bottom, you know, maple solid top. All these, since they're oak, I just did a solid oak thing. So if you ready, you gonna catch this one? On your way. So the top of that, you know, is a solid piece. You're not gonna see the line in the 12 segment. So what I'm saying is it just kind of, you know, kind of assures the piece is gonna stay a little, maintaining the integrity and look good. So for the top though, I'm not gonna use a scraper, a little tougher because of the end grain there. So I'm gonna use my bowl gouge, and I'm gonna kind of, I should have sharpened it before and it's glued good, it's not gonna fly off, and it's gonna make it tight. So I've got the tool kind of up to my side and all I'm really doing is just, fingers moving it that way. I nibble my way down. And like I say, I kind of pre-mark where I want that lip to be. I'll just kind of blend that glue dot together, the glue joint. And my glue block is, whatever that was, maybe a little shy of 3/4. I'm gonna bring it down a little bit, just so you don't like put your finger in there and, it's almost like too deep and then it sharp edge goes over. So I'm just gonna bring this down a little bit more. Kind of blend this together more. So I keep it kind of rounded. And if you see before I do a lot of that, beading stuff and the coloring, so I'm gonna kind of leave it like that. When I bead this one, I'm only gonna go up to that glue joint and leave kind of the top there. Okay, so now I'm gonna make like a little lip right here. There. Doesn't look like much. So now instead of kind of like guessing, where when is my tool gonna fly through the top there? I'm just gonna use a force strip. No, I'm not gonna use a force strip. Maybe I will. Do we know if we have any Jacob's truck?
There is one.
Yeah. So, Facebook Marketplace, I've had crazy fun luck finding some fun things, and about 10 years ago, there was a huge thaw on, maybe not 10 years ago, Facebook, maybe Marketplace. It was on Craigslist, I take it back, it was on Craigslist. Anyway, big table saw was in the picture, in the background was a one-way lathe sitting back in the corner. They weren't selling that, it was just, advertising the saw, and I called the number and I talked to a woman, and her husband had passed away, and she says, yeah, I think we're ready to kind of sell. So it was in Cottage Grove up in Madison. And I got a one-way lathe, it was like a dream thing, so those deals are out there if you keep your eyes peeled. Anyway. Okay, so I'm gonna turn it way down. I'm gonna lock this down, and I'm just gonna crank this in. And you know when it goes through? After talking with Steve, I don't stick my finger way in there like I used to. I'll take some rougher sandpaper, and all I got sitting here is 1,000 grit. But there's something right here, if I can use it. And I'll kind of roll it up so it's pretty firm. And I'll just soften the inside a little bit. I should even stand, just so you can kind of see it, it's kind of a fast. Here, just let me do the room here. It's a big mark chuck, it's kind of like a stronghold, it really works great. I kind of like this kind of a tool for tightening rather than the one-way things. But you just, so a really simple way of opening up a top, you know, if you're doing a chunk of wood, you know, end grain and you're getting down to the top, instead of like guessing and trying to get that inside perfect, just stick a Forstner bit in there and you are golden, you're good to go. If I'm gonna do a, you know, something like this size, or even a little bit smaller, I would actually mark on the top. I would take a inside caliper and I would mark on the top that what I have to work with is maybe 28 millimeters or something. And I would just put a 28 there, put a circle on it, and I know that my segments, you know, maybe I had a small segment and, you know, the center of this is probably, anybody know what a millimeter compared to an inch is? 25.
Smaller.
25.
Smaller?
Yeah.
Smaller?
About, yeah. Yeah, about 20, yeah. About 25 millimeters in the ballpark, just to get an idea. So. Inch and a half or. Whatever you want to call it, 35 millimeters. All right, anyway, so I would mark that on the top. So now I know when I take a Forstner bit, I actually mark them. This is a 32 millimeter. Forstner bit, so all my Forstner bits are marked. Whatever it is, this is a 28. Okay, so I know. Okay, I'll do this one real quick. And then I'll do about, do we have time for that? 10 minutes? So again, this wasn't turned yet. This was just the two halves. You know, when I turned them, I kind of matched them kind of close, so this hasn't been turned yet. In fact, you can even see right here, you can still see the glue joint right there.
I said sure really quickly, understand what you're saying, but maybe then move on to the. Bottom.
Okay, done. We're not doing this one. Bottom.
We're gonna take 20.
Got it. This will take 5 minutes. Absolutely. Kind of, yeah. So this is just MDF. 4 pieces kind of glued together. I kind of just with my scraper kind of scooped out a little scoop there. Put some that sticky soft contact paper from like Michael's. You get a pack of 10 or 12 for a couple bucks, whatever it is, $10 or whatever. But anyway, just kind of have that down there, so it's gonna kind of protect the end there. I'm gonna, when I make these, I'm gonna have a shorter bolt. And I'm gonna connect, you know, picture this not in there, I'm gonna have this circle bolted to this one. And then I'm gonna turn on an angle, an opening here. So for this is my number 2. And I'm gonna have a number 2 with this diameter, and I'm probably gonna have 3 more with different size openings. So depending on what I'm using, you know, this opening will be different. So maybe it catches it up here, you know, if it's more of a, you know, thing, and I like different size ones. So I even have, I saw how you turn the bottom of those things. I have a huge, you know,
And that apparatus is called.
that is called a.
Apparatus.
Anybody know?
Holding thing.
Donut shop, yeah. Yep. Well, and then just, you know, bolts that are, you know, Ace Hardware, wing nuts, and I already have it, at least on my lathe, it was, it's gonna be close enough. Right? So what you would do is you would bring up the tailstock. You would have, the bolts would be sitting right here. I'd have this ring kind of leaning up over around here. I kind of just hold it in place and then kind of pull it up. I would have this sitting here. Right here. I'm gonna show you two different ways of doing it. So I can do it just by that, by eye, and kind of, and I've just got the point now. I don't have the cone, just the point. Kind of put it in there, see how it is, and I'll turn it. And I can look, you probably can't see this on. You see that? I'm gonna use the nose of this pretty darn close to the piece, and as I rotate it, I can see. Okay, I'm off right there. So I would just kind of move it a little bit over this way, tighten it up, try it again until it's pretty close. We're gonna say this is close enough. That's one way. The even better way is gonna be if you have a tailstock adapter that fits your chuck. I think we have one, don't we? So what you would do is, right on the tailstock, the live center, there's an adapter that screws onto here, and it's got whatever thread I'm gonna be using for my chuck. So, I'll have a one-way thread, so I can actually like thread this onto my tailstock, put that piece right in here, slam that guy in there, and I can just bring it right up, and it's gonna be perfectly centered. And then I just bring that up, fold it in, and it's good to go. So this is the easier way to do that. If you don't have one of those, then you're gonna kind of use this a little bit, just kind of play it around, and after like 2 or 3 tries, you kind of get it pretty close. So once it's pretty close, you need a wrench for one side, and I can tighten it finger tight, the wing nuts, kind of opposite all the way around, and you can kind of feel tension wise when it's kind of right. And again, I'm gonna have this, still connected, and once I have these firm and I like them, then I'll pull this away, and I'll see that it still runs pretty darn good, okay? And again, you can use this on anything. Whoop. So I'm gonna use my tailstock anytime I can. What time is it? Just 5 more minutes. 5 minutes. And again, maybe I don't like my bowl gouge. Maybe you're not comfortable with it yet, or you just started. Back to the handy dandy party, and I can use that tip. And you can kind of nibble away at it. Just so you know that's an option. Or you can use a dull bowl gouge. Now, even that, this wasn't tight, and it still wasn't like catchy or moving around. It still kind of held its own pretty good. And again, it's kind of like, I'm kind of doing the finger thing. I'm really not. I'm kind of using my wrist almost as like a fulcrum point. You just kind of rolling it forward. And I think the bottom was like white oak, so it's a hard. You see the color change now I've got to the bottom? Or you see that go? So just to give you an idea, just because I want to do one last thing, if you can,
5 more minutes.
here, you can, this is, pretty smooth right there, and I'm gonna have a little indentation so it sits decent. I can take my parting tool on its corner, and make my 1 or 2 or 3 rings or whatever. So you see a finished product. And I would normally use that roll down, but both of those. These pulled out. And that just shows you the importance of a sharpener. That thing has been out of commission for a while and. It's kind of nibbling away with the parting tool. I know it's kind of lame, but it works. If I was to go straight in, if that left corner would catch, then it's gonna catch, but as long as I'm really working that right corner on as I go in, it's not gonna catch, I can do whatever I want, I can get a pretty, it's almost like a shear cut. Just keeping that top corner out of the way, I would use I don't know if I even have one. I would take a skew chisel right now and get down to that point. Once that's off, take this off and I would take a scraper. I have both ended scrapers, anyway, just there, that's the other scraper, and just kind of smooth it out with a scraper, and the bottom is like perfect then. I'll sand it, it's still trapped, it's still good. In fact, I can even hear it. Honey, I'll be right up. Ready, I'll be right up. Easier. Doesn't matter, use what you got, you can make it work.
Use that screwdriver.
I know. Opposite. Tell Dina we're on our way out of here. I'll clean up tomorrow. I will clean up. Yeah. So without the negative rate, I'm gonna be having my handle up. Um. Little bit of sanding and it's done.
Oh, if you have any questions for Jim? Does anybody have any real burning questions? Otherwise, I guess I kind of ask you to come up and go over here to the living room and talk to him.
Yeah, it started. Doing tops and bottoms, you can use that with other stuff, not just segmenting, so.
Thanks so much. You always bring it. Lee, are you ready? Sure. So, that concludes our meeting. You did not purchase a raffle ticket, you are free to go.
Even if you did purchase the raffle ticket, you're free to go.
Well, the first ticket that we draw is gonna be for the Jim has